Good morning and welcome to today's webcast, Drive Profit with Data Analytics. Before we begin, I'm going to play a brief housekeeping video.
Welcome, and thank you for viewing our webcast series. Before we begin, please keep the following in mind. You can customize how you view our presentation and interact with the presenter. For better viewing, close all other applications and turn up your speaker volume. You can adjust window size and placement or enter full screen mode using the controls at the top right of the window or dragging the bottom right-hand corner to resize. At the bottom of your screen, you'll see a series of icons that relate to a different aspect of our session. You can download a PDF of today's slides from the Slide Deck and Handouts widget. You can ask questions by typing in the Q&A window and clicking Submit. We'll do our best to answer all questions or follow up via email. If you experience technical difficulty, refresh your browser by hitting the F5 key. This presentation is not legal, investment, or accounting advice. We encourage you to seek the counsel of a professional service provider to apply this content to your specific circumstances.
And with that, I'm pleased to introduce today's presenters from Moss Adams, Casey Fike, Senior Manager, and Loren Managing Director. Casey is a Senior Manager in our Enterprise Systems Consulting practice, holds DOMO professional and technical certifications, and is a certified data management professional. Loren is a firm leader of business intelligence and corporate performance management. He helps businesses improve their processes to become more efficient and make better decisions. And Casey, I will turn it over to you to get us started.
Great. Thanks, Emily. And thanks, everybody, for making the time today. I think big thing we want to cover today is just understanding how we're obtaining data, again, just to get a better view of our business. So a couple of things we want to step through, the challenges that we've worked with clients on the barriers from obtaining data, how to make data available for those business users, and then removing barriers to business value. But before we jump into the presentation, I want to just kind of present this to everybody as a Q&A and just want to get an understanding of how you on the webinar are obtaining data or may not be obtaining data to make better informed business decisions. So feel free to hover, click, and we'll just give it 30-ish seconds before we move on.
Yeah, Casey, thank you for that. What we have found with so many of our clients is a lot of interest in the information that can come from data, but it all starts with getting data in the first place. Mm-hmm. And there's this whole variety of ways. Sometimes it is reports that are out there on its periodic basis. And I think what I have seen, and as we've worked together here, is sometimes it's just people have to go out to a whole variety of different places, some of them fairly obscure or highly technical, and these are business people that are trying to, to get it in a timely way, understand what's going on.
Yeah, but, the code piece, huge barrier, like you were saying, so.
Yeah, and it's, being at the starting point here, it's really where, to get all the benefits, you have to get past this, and then you can move on, and see and get analytical insights to, what's going on with the information.
Gotcha. Okay, I'm gonna move it. Gotcha. Okay. It's automated.
Yeah. So this is really aligned with what we often see is that you're logging into a lot of different systems and pulling data through. I don't know if that's your experience too, Casey, but this is it's very interesting.
Yeah, and you're spot on. I think it makes a lot of sense where it's, hey, I need to log into our ERP system. I need to pull down our trial balance and then put that into a pivot table and combine it with others. We'll talk about that, but thanks for responding. So I think, just kind of start off, why do organizations really lack analytics? And it's kind of what we saw here is the first bullet is just, I don't have easy access to data. I need to log into a system. I saw there was a couple of, I have a data warehouse. Again, you're pulling manually from there. And there was a handful that I'm not doing this currently. right? So I think it's a huge hurdle just getting access to data, right? I think if I'm a CFO, controller, I know what I want to see. It's just challenging to get that data. It's time consuming. Another piece that we're seeing with a barrier is around just building the business case. It's how to define ROI, which Loren, I know you're going to talk about later. But what is that? What are we trying to measure? What are we trying to look at? How do we get that source data? The third bullet, cost seems out of reach. Also something we'll cover later. I think there's some cost-effective solutions out there that we'll be able to talk through. IT resources, I saw there was a couple of responders to the data warehouse. Seems to me that those organizations probably have a deep IT bench. Not everybody on the call might have that. That's another challenge. Where to begin and build organizational interest. These are a couple of things that we'll talk about within the case study that we'll cover later in this. But I think, throughout this, we'll talk through a platform called Domo. For those not familiar with Domo, it's a data warehouse, basically a place you can store your data, and a visualization tool where you can build KPIs, dashboards. It's all in one, which kind of gives it a leg up on some other BI tools out there. So kind of to set the stage, I think data is everywhere. Big shift to digital through just enhancements in technology. The pandemic, there was a huge shift in digital applications, online, cloud-based platforms, pulling in more data. It's challenging, again, to those people that said, I have to log in manually. That takes time, right? I want the data at my fingertips. I know what I want to see, but it takes time to get that data and pull it all together. Another challenge is those kind of rogue data sets. And what I mean when I say this is, if the supply chain and finance departments aren't talking up the same set of data, you can't have meaningful discussions within your organization if there's two different views on revenue, cost of goods sold, gross margin, things along those lines. Challenging and time consuming. I'm kind of beating a dead horse here, but logging in manually to those sources and pulling. Publishing and sharing, that's also a challenge, is if there's not a comprehensive platform. Maybe we're sending around multiple versions of an Excel model. And I'm guilty of this. If you're sending around multiple versions, you're not working off the latest and greatest, that's when the discussions fall down. And then data security is another one. Keeping your data secure, limiting access, all very important, right? So I think those are kind of the concepts and challenges that we're hearing, right? But really what we want to get to is just providing access, visibility into data, right? To get a better feel for your business. Kind of our typical data project that we see is the challenges, or what we're seeing in obtaining data is obviously we have to work with IT, whether that's connecting to a data warehouse or connecting to applications that are owned by IT. It's working with that group. IT then might be investing in a data warehouse, data pipelines, which is taking data from source systems, putting it into your data warehouse, and then from your data warehouse to your BI tool, staff to support that, right? That's all costly, time consuming. The third bullet kind of ties in with that data warehouse concept in the sense that it takes time to build out those data sources that feed into your BI tool to make informed decisions on. And then the last piece also kind of ties in as well, where we might have an output in a dashboard, but it doesn't tie to our source system just because maybe somewhere along the way of within those data pipelines, we've manipulated that data, added in a filter on accident, right? I think there's kind of just challenges with more touch points within data of what we've seen. It makes it challenging, right? So I think, again, we'll talk about Domo throughout. I think the Domo platform brings a lot of efficiency, a lot of accuracy to reporting and pulling data. So, Loren, I'll hand it to you here.
Yeah. So what we find is, you're not looking for data just for data's sake. You have a business to run. And so it's getting information that gives you insights so you can make good, rapid decision making. And so that really comes down to engagement. How do you have people engage in the process? Because when you're engaged and you have the same information that you're working from, that will drive alignment in operation, conversations, and make it much more meaningful, and it helps you be a more agile organization. So it's this kind of a process that you go through that is all about removing barriers to engagement. So people will engage just when there's so many barriers that just end up with not enough time to get it all done and engage effectively. So, again, starts with collecting the information in the first place. And many times that's the easiest place to automate, is put in the effort to get the data and make it truly accessible to people so they can easily get to that. It's amazing how much time that saves and what a barrier to engagement that can be. And then distribution is kind of next. So once you have the data and you have it in a place, is it easy to distribute? So, not just in Excel on a drive somewhere, but it's in a system where it's a comprehensive view of the latest data, and people can easily get there and not have a barrier to the timeliness of that distribution. And then presentation is the same thing. Think through, during a project on what is the best way to present that data. So there's good examples out there, and then have people give good secured access so it's easy to get to the data they need to see, but yet you can have a comprehensive set that works together so the whole organization is represented, but yet people see just what they need to see. So just removing the barriers to the information, to getting to the information, is a huge driver to engagement and alignment. So we've talked a lot about, different ways of getting to your data and what it means, but it's always good to have an ROI discussion around. So, what is the return on investment? And of course, that comes down to two parts here. The cost. You really need to look at a comprehensive view of what those costs are on an ongoing basis. So there'll be, licenses for the different tools, your IT infrastructure, any labor costs that go with that, whether, it's IT or otherwise. What we're finding is a lot of the modern tools end up reducing these costs because, they come from either a software as a service where the license cost covers all the IT infrastructure and much of the IT labor as well. And so when you're looking at different options, it's good to look at comprehensively what is the whole cost of running those platforms. And then, once you have that, then looking at the benefits. And what you're looking for there is, speed, data accuracy, and making timely decisions. And what I want to do here is just talk through, okay, what is that benefit? How do you, measure that from a real business perspective? So I like to just tell the same story twice. And the first one goes like this. So you have your data team, they're really kind of on the ball, but they're working in Excel and they're doing their best. They're going out, they're getting the data, they're putting it all together, building reports, publishing out the decision makers. And so after the period is done, so like after the end of the month, you get all this work done, and in 2 weeks, it's in decision makers' hands, and they've consumed the data, and they understand here's what happened. At that point, that month is already done. You can't change what happened. And you're already halfway into the next period, so you have limited time to make adjustments where they're needed or to capitalize on gains where it's possible. So now let's just tell that story again with a lot of automation and having good information at your fingertips. So now you're halfway through the period. It's not done yet. You look and see how are things shaping up. And if it's in my area of responsibility, I can say oof, I might just hold off a little on this expense here and be able to, get to the mark that I had set out there. Or on the sales side, hey, need a little push here or there, or it's going great. Here's the thing that's working for us, and keep pushing on that. I have a chance then to actually change what is going on in that period and to bend the curve before it ends. So what we hear kind of over and over again from CFOs is that when they invest in these kind of platforms, that they need one good decision a year from each of their budget managers, and that completely pays for the whole platform. They have the platform to do many other things with. So in terms of ROI, I'm a little old-fashioned in that I do like to see hard dollars, and that story there really represents what it means to get, hard dollar return from your investment. So it's a helpful way to look at that. Another representation of that is to say, so many of us are working in spreadsheets. And if there's an automated platform, here we're highlighting Domo because it's this comprehensive platform that checks all the boxes. And it's from a business user's perspective. But speed of actionable insights is kind of number one on the list all the time for driving engagement. And spreadsheets is just very labor intensive. If you can automate that, there's huge benefits to it. Data management, just like where's the data at, and are we on the right version? Just a night and day difference between having a system that takes care of that and having that in spreadsheets on a drive somewhere. Drill down and insight is another one where it's a vast difference. You can in a spreadsheet look at where the links are going and kind of noodle your way through all of that. But being able to truly drill in beneath the numbers and see what's going on in an automated system is really insightful and helpful. So people answer questions that they have about the data as they're kind of in the mindset doing it right at the time. And of course, that all drives organizational alignment when you have that kind of information at your fingertips.
Thanks, Loren.
And then Casey, I think you have some examples here to work with.
Yeah, we're going to kind of just talk through what we've been talking about is how do we get data into the hands of the business? How do we overcome those barriers? We'll kind of step through how Domo tackles that, and then just kind of step through an example of a retail organization where we did some work for them. Again, Domo, the goal, the whole reason for the application is how do we get data into the hands of our business users, right? And just, again, we need IT to help connect source systems, but let's get data in the hands of those people that need to see it as often as they need to see it, right? So it's kind of as working with IT to get that initial connection. And again, that security model controlled within the platform, controlled by the business, limit who can see the data, what type of data they can see. Again, it's all within the platform. And then again, the big thing here is once I can get the data and I can get it in an efficient and accurate manner, I can then experiment and understand again. Like I was saying earlier, I know what I want to see, but if I'm pulling in multiple data sources into Domo, I can now take, again, like maybe I'm a construction company, I'm pulling in my financials, I'm pulling in my project management data, I'm pulling in safety, I'm pulling in my backlog. Again, all within a single data source to then report on. And then to the last piece, it's a relatively intuitive platform to build visualizations once you've connected data. So step through a couple of examples here. As I was mentioning in the previous slide, big challenge is just big shift to digital with a lot of applications. Then also, I think there's a number of applications that still you might have a server closet in your organization or server room, excuse me. There might be some applications you're still running on physical servers within your office. Domo can connect to those as well. So I think the big piece here with this slide is Domo is a platform that can pull data sources. They have over 1,300 what they call data connectors to pull from on-premise, cloud, a number of Excel if you'd like, to pull in, again, house, secure, and then be able to look at, analyze, build visualizations, KPIs off of that, all with an automated kind of refresh, which is defined by the user, whether that's daily, nightly, weekly, whatever that might be. So we want to kind of step through here just a success story we've had where client came to us with the problem, hey, we're challenged for us, we're pulling data from multiple sources. We have our ERP, we have a separate product database, we're shipping products, so that means we're sourcing overseas, we have a logistics partner, we have a last mile partner once that information or once that product has come stateside. We're just not sure what our true product margin is. So the challenge was just kind of pulling all those data sets together and really coming up with a good calculation of, it's not just like product margin, but what's our entire margin? What does our cost look like for these products? What does our revenue look like? Not only on the sales side, but what are we charging for shipping? So what we did was using Domo, the Domo platform and their data connectors, we're able to connect to their data sources and then automatically harvest data from all those sources. And again, it was different data sets, but we wanted to see what was our product margin broken down by product family, because those would be very different depending on your industry. Again, hard goods, soft goods, if you're a retail organization, those margins are going to be very different. Services will be very different as well. They wanted to get a better feel for products, costs, revenues, discounts. What does our discount policy look like? Is that cutting into our margins too much? Is it not? Are we seeing some softness there? Freight in and tariffs, we wanted to get a better view on what it looked like for our shipping partner and logistics and last mile provider. And as I mentioned, all broken down by product family. So to kind of step through here is, again, what we're taking as, this is just a screenshot from the Domo platform, but as mentioned, we're able to pull in data from all those different sources, automate that pull. So it was a one-time connection, and then that data was refreshed once a night. And then we were able to build out some just really quick dashboards and views here, and then able to filter. And again, it loses quite a bit when we're dealing with screenshots, but we wanted to be able to build a good look at what your product sales, gross margins look like, and then they wanted to be able to drill down into specific product families. And then we had another drill through to get down to the specific product category, so another level. But again, all the data at your fingertips, refreshed nightly, again, so it's no more pulling data from all these different sources, munging it all together, having some errors, having to fix those errors. The discussion that this management team could have was directly at the product family level, and no more discussion. When are we going to get this model together? Or it doesn't look right. So a couple more views here. What we were able to kind of break down, not only what we were selling, how we were selling in, but also what it was costing us, to get it from our sourcing partners overseas into our retailers and directly to our consumers, what that different kind of mix looked like. Because again, wholesale, your sell-in is going to be very different margin-wise than selling what you're going direct to consumer. And then another look here, which I thought was pretty interesting, and what we spun it up was we wanted to know freight costs. And I think freight logistics, huge issue with the pandemic and continues to be a huge issue today. They really wanted to evaluate what their logistics partners, what their last mile partners were charging. How are they buying space and shipping containers? Was it on the spot market, or what do we need to do a better job of forecasting? And then also another look, which I thought was interesting, was this company had if you buy $100 or more worth of product, you get free shipping. The question was, is that cutting into our margins too much, right? So I think, again, once we have all the data and we can look at it as we've, not only on our just what we're selling, but also kind of what we're charging customers to sell, we have a better good look at what our shipping policy looks like. And if we need to adjust that, again, adjust up, adjust down, offer a discount for the holiday season when it comes to shipping. Again, it really just kind of gets to, we have all the data at our hands. We can make those informed decisions now. So that said, Loren, I'll pass it to you.
Yeah, so it's always good to if you're looking for these benefits, like how do you remove the barriers? And so really driving value from the business comes down to, first just get the data, make it accessible to people so that you get participation. Having people participate in the discussion is huge because you have multiple minds just working on and aligning with the business value, and that's where you'll see innovation and kind of a forward thrust in the business and business agility. So this empowers people to participate more, but what it also allows is, that fourth bullet there is really important, that you're able to experiment with. You can try things and research out and understand what's driving the value, through that whole process, through the whole business cycle. Another thing I would like to highlight is that that last bullet there where it says, be able to easily manipulate data for insights. And that is just, if you have the data at hand and you have it in a tool where you can truly work with it, then you're able to see the insights from that data manipulation that a business user can do and be able to see the trends in the data that will drive business value. When you're looking at these platforms, there is, while we've been highlighting Domo, there's a lot of different platforms that are out there, and that they're all shaped in a lot of different ways. But this slide here is meant to just give you some insights as to when you're evaluating platforms, what should you look at? So it all comes down to, can you get to the data? Is there a place that you can store, but it still is highly accessible? It needs to have security, it needs to have, functions that help you do the analytics, be able to visualize, facilitate communications. So it helps, between the different teams. They may not be in the same location. And then that, minimize IT infrastructure is just about controlling costs. So this just meant to say, when you're looking at a platform, there's a lot to it. And here are some broad categories that'll help you in that effort. So this whole, discussion comes down to really these 5 things here. This, it's this positive kind of virtuous cycle. Whereas if you have the data and people have easy access to it, then they can be responsive. Going back to the story of, am I seeing the data after the period happens, or am I seeing it before it ends and I can do something about it? It helps me to be responsive. If I can be responsive, then I can adapt. I can be adaptable. And when I'm adaptable, then I can collaborate with those around me and my business partners. And, these are just kind of building on top of each other. If I'm being collaborative, then all of a sudden we're empowered that we can make decisions. We can have this, positive forward thrust in the business that's adding real value. When you're doing that, then you just feel like you're really in control of your business and you're able to move things forward. So this is just really where you drive value from and what these platforms can do for you.
Great. Thanks. To wrap it up, and I know we're getting a little bit short on time, but I want to just drive a couple points home. I think the whole premise of the webinar was, driving profit. I think for an organization to really understand what profit looks like, we need to have readily available, accurate, clean data, right? I think, and that needs to be in the hands of the business, those individuals that can make those decisions, understand, adjust as needed. And once that data is in the hands of the people, that's when the concept of analytics, that's when the concept of data will take off. If you can show a couple success stories, a couple wins within your organization around using data to make better informed decisions, that's when it spreads out through the entire organization. Another piece is focus. Loren had mentioned this earlier, but focus on the solution that makes it easy for you to pull data from multiple systems, right? As we were talking earlier, I think I've worked in IT, I understand the challenge there working with the business, but if we can bring some efficiency in having us pull data from sources we're comfortable with as a business user, that makes it all the more usable. And again, the fourth bullet I kind of mentioned earlier, but it's making data available, accessible, getting it in the hands of the business. That'll make your analytics program, your platform, whatever you're using, highly sticky. People are engaged, wanting to know more about data. What does the data say? And then just pulling that all together, using data to make stronger business decisions. That's going to really drive your profits of your business, right? So I think, as we mentioned earlier, getting data in the hands of the users, allowing those business users to make decisions, that's really going to drive business, and that's going to drive profits. And I think to kind of tie it off, this is something that Moss Adams we can help with. We can help you all with. So that said, I'll turn it back to Emily.
All right. Thank you so much, Casey and Loren, for a great presentation today. I did see we had some questions coming. Unfortunately, we are out of time. We'll be doing our best to follow up with you after the webcast, or you can also reach out directly to Loren and Casey via their email addresses here. And here's a link to an online survey where you can provide feedback for today's presentation. Please take a moment to complete the survey, as your feedback is very important to us. Thank you for joining us, and we hope you'll join us again next time.